Okay. All right. We are recording now. All right. Okay. So the first concept you need here is nadir. And I want you to put in your notes nadir period. Nadir and then the word period, not a dot. And make sure you capitalize it because it's a proper noun. Okay. Do any of you guys know what the word nadir means in like lowercase n, like in just conversation? Have you ever heard that, encountered that word before? It's the opposite of a zenith.
Isn't it like the lowest point in someone's life or something?
Yeah.
Or organization?
Yeah. So literally nadir means low point. It means low point. So a zenith is a high point. Nadir is the low point. Dhruv is absolutely correct. Nadir oftentimes gets used in like psychological senses, or like alcoholism or something like that, where you hit a nadir and that's your low point of your mental health or something like that. Often it gets used when describing depression or addiction a lot of times. But you can use it as like airplanes too. Airplanes use the term too. The zenith of their flight and the nadir, you know, like when fighter planes are doing maneuvers and stuff like that. All right. In the case of this, relevant to civil rights, the nadir period is the time in Black history from about 1890 to World War II, 1890 to 1940. Where it's the period in Black history, Black American history, from around 1890 to about 1940, where Black America was at its lowest point. The term comes from W.E.B. Du Bois. W.E.B. Du Bois, you guys remember him, right? You should have gotten him in your AP class last year. He would have been a very important person. Okay, so W.E.B. Du Bois coins this term, and he says this is the lowest point in Black history. That you would think that the lowest point is actually slavery, but it's not. He says it's not, because a slave doesn't understand what freedom is. A slave doesn't understand what it means to be free. But Black people at this time period do. They'd been given the freedom and it was taken away from them. They were given the vote and it was taken away. They were given the concept that they could live a life free of violence and it was taken away from them. That they have tasted freedom and it was taken from them, making it worse. That's why it's the low point. This is also the period of time with maximum lynchings. This is where lynchings are the most common throughout American history. And for this, there's a period of about 5 years, right around the year 1900. A period of about 5 years, right around the year 1900, where lynchings in the United States exceed 350 a year. Okay, it exceeds somewhere between 350 and 400 a year. And that would be a mob attacking usually a Black man, about 80% of them are Black men, attacking a Black man and killing him, and in the American style, usually hanging them in a tree. That's the American style of lynching, usually. Now, the other 20% of the lynching victims are going to be men who are not Black. So it'll be Chinese men, Mexicans, and Jews, right? And then a very small portion of them are going to be women. There's only going to be about 5% of the victims are women. Most of the time, the women aren't lynched. Lynching is viewed as a punishment appropriate for a threat, someone who is a threat. And women just aren't viewed as a threat usually, and so women aren't lynched. Women instead would just be raped and beaten and then just released, is more common, right? We want to be clear here, women are being victimized as well, right? Women are being attacked. It's just usually the form of rape and, okay? All right, in addition to the lynchings of this time period, we also have, we'll come back and do NAACP another day. We also have massacres. So let's get to know a few massacres here. All right. We're only going to profile 4 massacres, and we'll do some of them today and some of them next class period. But we need to understand that a massacre like this is happening at least once a year for about 30 years. At least once a year for about 30 years or so. Okay? But I'm only going to profile some of the worst ones. All right. E. Big number E, the Wilmington Massacre, North Carolina, 1898. The Wilmington Massacre, North Carolina, 1898. You're going to see a theme here. This is happening during an election year. Elections produce a lot of massacres. Okay, so in Wilmington, North Carolina, the Black Republican Party, the Black Republicans, and the Populist Party, populists who were like leftists, you know, they were like labor union type leftist people. So the Black Republicans and the Populists had formed a fusionist party. And it was a combination of those two parties. And they had put those two parties backing one candidate to try to get that candidate elected, a black man elected. And they did. The election was held and they succeeded. They got the black man elected. And they thought that that was really great. The white community came back at them and attacked them. The white community, one of the leaders of the white community here, a woman named Rebecca Felton, she is actually known in history as one of the greatest suffragettes in North Carolinian history. She is the woman most responsible for women getting the right to vote in North Carolina. She is actually the loudest, clearest voice for women's suffrage in North Carolina, which makes it all that much more nightmarish that she does this. Quote on the bottom here. On the quote on the bottom here, Ilha, can you read our quote on the bottom for us? Nice and loud for the whole class.
Yep. If it requires lynching to protect a woman's dearest possession from ravening, drunken human beasts, then I say lynch 1,000 Negroes a week.
That is a quote that Ms. Felton gives in a speech. She gives a speech to the people after the election day. She then publishes it as an editorial in one of the newspapers. This provokes the rest of her speech. I just pulled that one line out of it. That gives you a taste of what the rest of her speech was about. It provokes the group called the Red Shirts, which is a KKK style group, right? A KKK style group local to the Carolinas. And they attack the black newspaper. They burn it to the ground, and that's what the picture is. They're standing proudly in front of the burned out black newspaper. And then they start burning a bunch of other black buildings down. They kill about 100 men, or 100 people, I'm sorry. They kill about 100 black people. And then they take all of the other black people and they put them on a train and they force them to leave the town and say, if you ever come back to the town, we will kill you. The numbers for all of these massacres are a little bit sketchy, but you can assume that the bigger number is the more true number, okay? The official number was 25 got killed, but when historians went back and tried to count all the bodies in the graves, they found 100 skulls. So the bigger number is almost always the more true number, almost always. But the number actually could be much higher, and the lynching numbers could be much higher too. So if we assume that like 350 people were lynched in 1898, we actually think that the number was probably closer to 400 or 450. We think that the numbers are about 25% more on all of these things, because a lot of bodies they never found the body, right? A lot of times the body just gets, dumped in the ocean or like chopped up into pieces in the forest and animals eat it, or just buried somewhere, or, dumped out in the desert somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of bodies that just disappear. So you can assume that the numbers are all about 25% higher. This, and I think it's very important that we define this correctly, this is a coup. This is a coup d'etat. The white community overthrew the elected government of Wilmington, North Carolina, the elected government. They overthrew it, they killed the candidates, they expelled everyone from the city, and then they installed their own candidates. For a period of 4 years, Wilmington, North Carolina, in the United States, was ruled by an unelected government placed by a coup of white racists. At the time, they don't define it as a coup, but it's a coup. This is a coup. It's the violent overthrow of a government. It absolutely is a coup. Did we define sundown towns to you guys? All right, let's define sundown towns really quick. All right, let's get another term here. We'll come back and do some other things in here, but let's get sundown towns. Okay. We'll do our last, sundown towns will be the last term that you need, and then we'll do the other 3 massacres next time I see you. Okay. All right. So a sundown town. You guys see this map on your screen, right? Okay. So a sundown town is a town that is purposefully kept white and enforced by violence. Purposefully kept white and enforced by violence. Okay, so what that means is, in most cases, a sundown, and you call it a sundown town because if a black person is in the town after sundown, they get murdered. Okay, so sundown town usually is, and this is how they define it, is usually a town that did have a black population at one point. It doesn't have to be black necessarily, but it did have a non-white population at some point. That non-white population became the victims of violence and were kicked out of the town. And then the town was maintained whites only for a period of time. Wilmington, North Carolina became a sundown town after the massacre. Now, sundown towns exist in every state in the nation. So let's examine good old, well, let's do Alabama first, and then I'll break your souls with Utah. All right, so Alabama first. Okay, here's Sand Mountain is a good example. If you look here, can you guys see this? Right? There's a sign in the front. The sign. So in Alabama, it's like just obvious. They like hang the signs up and stuff. They hang the signs up in Alabama, Mississippi, things like that. And it's warning black people traveling in the South that if you pass through our town, you keep going. If you stop and you attempt to stay here for even one night, we will kill you. Right? And in Alabama, they actually have the signs hanging up. Right? They have the signs hanging up. And in some cases in Alabama, the signs are still up. Yeah. Let's look at Utah real quick. Utah has a couple of these. Oh, wait. Back one more. Hey, can you prop my door open for me? I can't get you guys. Your faces are over Utah. All right, here we go. Here's Utah. Here's the one that I find most disturbing is Murray, Utah. Murray, Utah. There's quite a bit on here. There's quite a bit on here. I can summarize it for you. Quite a bit of Utah stuff. But Murray, Utah in 1920 had 5 black people in it. By 1924, the Deseret News reports a black man being hanged by a tree in what is today Murray Park, right? By 1930, Murray had 0 black people. On the 1930 census, we can tell by looking at census data, right? By the 1930, Murray had 0. 1940, Murray had 0. 1950, Murray had 0. Murray, Utah was a sundown town for 40 years. Yeah, pretty disturbing, huh? In fact, there's quite a bit of evidence that all of the towns of the Salt Lake County, except for Salt Lake City, were sundown towns for about 40 or 50 years. Sandy, Midvale, Mill Creek, Taylorsville, they were all sundown towns because the black people in the Salt Lake Valley were all forced to live in Salt Lake City alone. Yeah. Pretty disturbing, huh? I can give you the link to the website if you want to search around on it. It's I'll put the link in the chat for you. Okay, on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. School just got out and students are coming in here asking for help. So I'm gonna wrap this up with you guys. And we'll pick up and we'll finish off with the massacres on the next time I see you, okay? The quiz, the code is flamingo, like the bird, okay? I want you to get the quiz done by tomorrow afternoon, please. Cool? Awesome. The quiz is on the, it's on the reading, it's on the lost cause discussion readings, okay? And then you will have another quiz the next time I see you, so that'll be on Tuesday for you guys, on Tuesday of next week, and that quiz will be on Ida B. Wells. Cool? You guys with me on that? We're all on board?
Yes.
Have a good afternoon. I hope I didn't depress you too badly. All right, I'll see you later.